Okay, guys, welcome to This Week in Tyranny. Thank you so much for joining me to this show, episode 141. What is it really about? I don't really know. It's Sunday, August 17th, 2025, which means it's less than 2 weeks until Soundpath, the Soundpath Music Festival. It is no secret that that is where my mind is at. That is what I'm occupied with. I put together a meetup, an Eventbrite, trying to promote, get people to show out, show up. So that's keeping me from doing a lot of the hardcore breakdowns of things like I usually do. I'm even starting to get uneasy about it because I'm thinking I'm starting to neglect my bread and butter a little bit. But it's just ebbs and flows. I'm rolling with the punches of what's going on, and that is why I'm just kind of going to do a very loosely put together show about AI, about digital cash, some of these things that are kind of dominating the collective consciousness right now in a general sense, maybe not specifically what happened this week, but things that are weekly, week by week, are the dominating things in the conversation. And of course, I just can't help but do this. I kind of have a different point of view than anybody I talk to. I guess it's just the way. I guess I'm just always going to be an evil Aquarian contrarian. I always have to argue and say the opposite of what most people are saying. I suppose that's just the way it is. Okay? So let me just get right into it and not beat around the bush. I like when people are direct. If there's got to be a little bit of drama because of it, so be it. Why don't we just lay our cards out there? So, digital currency. We've known for the longest that digital currency is basically going to be the end of the free market. Okay, of course, it's not so much that it's digital. It's not that computers are the enemy. It's just you're gonna have somebody controlling who gets to make a transaction, because with cash they cannot control you. Of course, you can give somebody money as long as that language of cash is out there, as long as that system is out there. You could pay for anything and nobody can tax you. Of course, if they're going to bottleneck that, and it's going through these machines, going through these credit card vendors, and basically being controlled by the banks. All digital cash is digital currency, stable coins. All that is just basically allowing the bank into your pocket, into your house. It's still just the banks. Now, cryptocurrency is a little bit different, right? Especially privacy coins. So, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that, but you don't need to be an expert to basically understand the differences between those three things, like basic cash, all of the digital stuff, and then crypto and privacy coins, which is a bit different, but there's an overlap here now. Of course, the whole freedom movement, anybody who's got their head screwed on correctly is seeing that it's a huge issue that they're trying to do away with cash. They've been trying to do away with cash. Of course, everything is incentivized to do digital transactions, and if the cash market goes away, of course everything is taxed. This is obvious, right? But this is where I say, hold on a minute. Has cash not been a tool of control in itself? It's already been a tool of control. So it's not that I'm saying that don't worry about cash going away. I'm saying, why don't we recognize the problems with the money system as is, and not just try to fight tooth and nail to keep the current system in place, to not have the other system be brought in, because the new system of digital currency is going to be, of course, worse. But the reason we're going to lose it is because we're not really speaking out against the cash system. We're not successful within the cash system. We're not battling it in any significant way. So when we talk about preserving cash, holding on to good old cold hard cash dollars, keep holding that lifeline. It's not, you're going to sink with the ship. Now, I know it would be bad, of course, if our money could be turned on and off, like is of course proposed, and this is the dream of the bankers, is to have a digital off switch, so that when I, Konrad Rogoz, go to purchase something, because of my statements and things that I've said and my affiliations, I won't be able to buy fuel, ammunition, whatever it is, right, down to food. We all know that's dystopian. We all know that that's really bad. But people are so scared of that being a reality it's a very sloppy thing. That is a very sloppy thing for it to go to this Chinese social credit score system. I know in many ways we already have it, but in the way that people are really fighting tooth and nail to prevent that from happening, I don't think it's going to happen because they can already limit access. They are already, through just the plain old cash system, crony capitalist system, they already prevent people from having money. They already shut you down on PayPal. People who have podcasts like this happens to Ryan Christian, they already can shut you down. You can already get debanked. That's happened during the pandemic. Now, of course, this is I'm kind of making a point. I'm kind of making their point as well, because a lot of this stuff is recent that they've done this kind of predatory banking, financial censorship, so to speak. So, in a way, I'm not really arguing against people because they have some good points. So I'm acknowledging these points. I'm trying to find a balance. I'm just presenting the other side here. I'm presenting the side that is just saying, hey, don't be crying wolf right now. The same thing with the current president or the next president or what's going to happen. Is the world going to end tomorrow? I'm always cautious of sounding the alarm on things like that, because when it doesn't end, we look dumb. We look like we were crying wolf. We look like we were the ones saying that the world is going to end, and the world doesn't end. And I always tell people, hey, they don't need to bring in their technocratic system in the next 5-10 years. They're not going to do it. They're going to do it in 50. So while you're here sounding the alarm on what is happening, if you're wrong, if it doesn't happen in the next 10-15 years, the gravity of your statement goes down, and you're like the boy that cried wolf. That's my point here. And I don't think we're ever going to get to the point at which we go up to a screen at the bank or something, and the screen says, the government has shut down your currency. Like the way that we think it's going to be. I don't think they respect us that much. They're not... The way this already happens is that whatever the system is, whatever the medium is, the phone, the app, the platform, it's just going to not work. It's going to say like, oh, sorry, we're having technical difficulties. And nobody's going to be able to prove that you're actually being censored. Nobody's actually going to prove that you're being attacked, in a very centralized, dictatorial way. I don't hear people talking about that, because it doesn't have to be stated outright anywhere. It doesn't have to be a written passed law that these people who are political dissidents, they're going to be stopped from purchasing this amount of food, because that's the narrative, right? That's never going to happen. They're just not going to be able to do it through technical difficulties, through supply chain interruptions, through all of these things that can never be traced and proven. I think people really got to remember that. I think we got to be way smarter when it comes to, how sneaky and cunning this criminal international crime group is, especially when you put money into it. You think about it. You think about people who make like millions a year, like freelancers who are just genius types, and cryptographers and programmers. People who are like data analysts, these really sharp guys that got hired, the kind of guys that sat in the back of the class and aced all the tests and figure out how to, hack into some kind of payment system. And they got hired by some Israeli company or some kind of, or really they got hired by the government, probably through a third party. And they're the ones who are scheming now and creating the technology to screw the people out of their money. Obviously that's happening, and that's all with the old school system of cash, because who has the money are the people that are closest to institutions. That's who makes the most money. While people like me, we gotta work, we gotta work like hard jobs, and jobs that are not so high paying, because we don't have the contracts, we don't have the connections, we don't have the affiliations with government and big institutions. Where government and big institutions, they have first access to get these kids out of the colleges, to get these geniuses and to get these talented people out there and recruit them, and then give them all the money, because of course they can do it now. So to make a long story short, the government, with all of their revenue, there's a whole shadowy black structure around government where they could just throw money at people to accumulate more power. Because the old system has never gone away. Feudalism has never gone away. The people who used to be rich and landowners, they never really lost. It's just been rearranged. It's been a more discreet, smarter structure. Okay, the king took the crown off, but he didn't give his power away. The throne is not really gone, right? So they're not going to shut down society in a black and white way. It's not gonna, Peter Thiel and Sam Altman and these guys and Larry Ellison. I don't think they're gonna be behind a throne one day, controlling us in that way. They won't really get rid of cash anyway, not fully, not for a long time anyway, because if they did get rid of cash, cash is still out there, they would actually make it a weapon then. See, everybody is used to already using it. Now, say that the street market completely goes away and you can only use credit cards. Well, there's a huge market of people that just won't do it. They'll just continue to use cash because that's what they're used to. The cleaning lady is going to come to their house and they're going to pay them cash, and they're still going to go to the market and exchange cash. So if they were to do that, if they were to actually do away with cash, that would actually create like a grassroots resistance movement, just by nature of taking away something that was part of everyday life. So they don't want to do that. And another reason they don't want to do that is because if they were to get rid of the cash system, then cash would basically be used primarily for sex and like drugs. And they do not want that. They do not want a market where all of that currency that they were using for hundreds and hundreds of years, now you're going to be only using it for sex and drugs. That would make it really powerful because you cannot stop people from engaging in those things. So they would create a very quick resistance movement. And then cash would be only used for things that are not government approved. They don't want to separate those things. So this is why I always say I don't think the power is going to go out. I don't think there's going to be an EMP attack. I don't think there's going to be a gigantic world war. I don't think there's going to be a huge financial crash, because that would break the habits that everybody has been engaging in. Well, I think control works in the opposite. It works by reinforcing the habits that people have always been taking part in, and that's the real threat that I see. People engage in the same kind of habits. They go to school to get the degree so they could get the wife and get the house and get the family. And those are the people who are epigenetically passing on their genes and raising kids in such a way that this new generation, they're just going to go to school and do what everybody else is doing just so they could get the money, just so they can get the comfortable life. And slowly, over time, they are breeding out of existence qualities like mine, like this, right? Individuality, originality, kind of being that rough around the edges. This is the stuff they're doing away with. Now, that is through reinforcing everyday habits, everyday addictions, everyday comforts, the football every season, all of this stuff. This is what we need to look out for. It's not going to flip all of a sudden. So, the digital currency thing, slowly we are heading towards that. But I would also want to make this point that it's a threat mostly to the mainstream, because it is going to be those people that have the 3 cars, the house, the mortgage and the retirement funds. Digital cash is really going to hurt them. It's going to control them the most. You talk about people like me, my family, the immigrant communities, a lot of the Hispanic community here in Chicago. We the select few, we're not going to go for it anyway. So the threat to us is not really that they're going to do away with cash. I don't think they would make those markets go away with the switch of a button. I think the food truck is still going to be out tomorrow, even if they shut it down. Now, if they go take the cops and start arresting people and shooting them in the street, then yes. But I don't think they're going to do that either. Because again, that would cause a shock. That would break people from their habits. When there's no reason to break the habits, there's no reason for this control system to deviate from what they're doing. Why would they deviate from it? Their shit is working perfectly. So the threat to us, to people like me, to the people who are aware, it's always been that the mainstream is going to go for something, and they're going to jump off the cliff. Society, as a general group, is going to jump off the cliff, and when they do jump off the cliff, the same rope, the same noose that's around their neck, is around ours, because we're a herd of sheep. So imagine these sheep jumping off a cliff. We're going to go down with them. That's always been the threat. But now look at this, though. As things currently stand in 2025, we are trending towards going broke anyway, whether cash is digital or not. Even if the dollar goes up and there's plenty more paper money, or not plenty more, but you know what I mean. If paper money is alive and healthy, we're still going to go broke as things are currently trending. And that's because the money system, it's funneling resources towards those that comply with the system. So like here in Chicago, the closer you are to a large institution, the more money you make. I'm the right-hand man of a general contractor for a construction company in Chicago. So the people we do work for, we work for people that they have a lot of money. And they always are connected or close to a large institution generally. Like they work for government or a big business of some sort, doing something that's very traditional and mainstream. And in that sense, even though we don't talk politics with our clients, but you can basically tell all but, I could think of one or two exceptions, but everybody is basically, what they think about society. They're not going to be streaming the SoundPath freedom conference, because freedom and change, like global change, is not a thing that's appealing to them, because their life, they don't need big change in their life. Their life is perfectly fine as it is. So they have no reason, they have no incentive to think that things are wrong with the world, because they're on the right side of it. Life is treating them pretty well, and they haven't been exposed to everyday injustice. Can't blame them too much for it, but that's just the way it is, right? So that's how it goes here. All I'm saying to you is that the current system is bad enough as it is. So when you talk about the dangers of AI and the dangers of stablecoin digital currencies, let's make sure we also are connecting it to like causal factors of this. We're gonna get into that now. More so than the technology that it's manifesting as, the cause of the problems and the big threats that are on the horizon, like AI and digital currency, it's that we are in the age of absorption. I used to call it the age of acceleration, because things are happening much more faster. Content is much more slow. Much more brief. So I say slow because I'm looking at 18 minutes I've already been talking. So that's way longer than for anybody to expect to click on this. I got to take more time to cut this into little sections and hopefully get a couple people to see this. That's the age of acceleration. You need to move faster and faster just to keep up with people, just to not lose them. But I'll also call this the age of absorption, because the general trend of everything is assimilation and being absorbed into like one monolith, this orb. Okay? Examples: people generally dress the same. There's not so much. People are driving similar cars. They want similar things. They want similar experiences. So we see the blueprint, the template on social media, and then we go to emulate that. You see the person that just went viral, then everybody does the same thing to try to go viral. That's absorption. It's becoming more and more centralized. Less and less individuality. So, as much as this is a real threat, the digital cash, the AI, the militarization of government, my question is, how do you expect to fight against it when these people in the city, they see it as convenient? They don't see it as an enemy. They don't see any of the threats that we're telling them about. I'm talking about the idea behind it, When you bring up, say, Big Pharma, when you bring up medicines, they don't think about a dangerous injection of a foreign substance. They're thinking hard-earned innovation by our hardest working and brightest minds. They don't see the malicious intent of people that are behind worldly institutions. They don't see the record of communist and Nazi regimes killing 100 million people, totalitarian regimes. They don't see Pol Pot, Chairman Mao, all of this stuff, Cambodia, that they've completely separated that from the world they're living in today. They don't see that the current Western or modern system is going to be capable of the same kind of bloodshed and tyranny that the former governments were capable of. They don't make that connection. So they don't see digital money as an eradication of resource exchange, right? Of a killing of free market, as an economic power grab. They don't see that. They see it as sensible progression. They see it as natural growth, like something that their grandma would do, because they don't expect the threat. This is why we lose a lot of young people as well, because young people haven't seen violence in the streets in general. They've been exposed to a lot of things on the internet, but in general, their life has been pretty safe. So they're not street smart. They don't know what scammers look like, what criminals look like. They don't know that look in the eye of a of an addict that's on the edge, that is down to do anything. They haven't seen people like that. They haven't seen psychopaths. They haven't seen real violent people. So, and a lot of this is people from the city. And why I stress them in this episode is because these are the people that steer the ship. We're talking about the urban mainstream. This is the upper middle class, or you could call them the lower institutional class, right? The lower noble class, so to speak. We don't have nobility anymore, but the aristocrat merchant class, the lower aristocrat class, they decide the direction of society. These are the guys that are living in the city of Chicago, and making most of the money, because and the reason why they decide where society goes, because they are the ones sending their children to those schools, to those colleges, from which the large institutions, the big corporations, they staff their organizations from those ranks, right? That's their academy, okay? Like a soccer team is going to have an academy, and then if this 11-year-old kid they know he's going to be a star, they sign them before anything. They say, you're with us, and then he plays for Barcelona his whole career. That's like the academy system. That's what college is in America and in the world. So they end up making the most money, these families, these children. So they become a political force. They become this kind of a force that determines the course of society. And it's no wonder that whoever is going to give you hundreds and thousands of dollars, you're probably going to be pretty sympathetic to their political leanings, right? Why would they not be? Why would they not be if they don't see a threat and everything that is happening to them is good and it's coming from these people, this system, whether it's a flag or some politician? All they have is the information that is telling them that everything associated with this system is good to them. That's the stimuli they're getting. And we're not explaining that to people. We're just telling them that AI is a threat. Or digital cash, we got to hold on to cash because digital currency is going to be the end of freedom. We're not explaining to the people the whole background. Now, money, it's inherently, cash in itself, since it was around, it's oriented towards absorption and assimilation, because it's the practice of using a quantity to determine value. It's equating a number with a value. So it's like saying me, giving me a number. Okay, how good am I? What is my show? Number 1, number 50? It's using a number to put a value on something, right? And you can do that. You can do that and probably be correct about it. But it doesn't tell you the whole story of who I am. It's just, you can just see who has more money, right? What's worth more. But that's not really value, because value is not just what's worth more. There's a lot of nuance to it. So it's just an analogy. I'm not saying that money is bad because it's just an analogy. But the problem is, it's never with the analogy. The problem with that is when people forget what the analogy was supposed to originally mean. So, what's worth a lot of money? I don't know, a car. So, there are reasons why a car is worth a lot of money, because it lasts a long time and you can generate a lot of revenue with it. You can do all these things with it. But people forget that and they just see the dollar amount. And this is why, name brand stuff can go for way more expensive, way, way, way higher dollar value than it is actually worth, right? There are a bunch of, somebody could splatter paint on the wall and it's $1 billion painting, right? Things like that. And you can get into that, the relativity of monetary value. My intention is not to get into that. I'm just saying that because we use money at the way we do, it's always going to be more centralized. It's always going to be whoever accumulates more of it. It's going to be the quantity that is going to attract the person's attention, and we're going to not think so much about the value behind it, right? It's like if I put on a costume, you're going to see the costume, you're going to see this guy's dressing like a freaking green frog. You're going to see that, and you're not going to think about the guy behind it. Obviously, because the quantity, that part of the analogy is going to hit you first. But get this now. Whether money is digital or it's gold or paper, the problem has always been the same. It's the same old problem. The only problem with money is that it's amassed by a select few, and monopolized. And they have done that with money, with cash. They just can't totally do it because you could just take it away. With digital, the idea is they'll be able to take it away fully. But the problem is, the core issue is that there is someone out there that can decide if your children are going to eat or not. They can determine value. And for human beings to determine value subjectively, that's moral relativism. That's how we've gotten into the problem that we are in the first place. Because human beings are not supposed to be subjectively determining value of things, like things that include the property of others, right? Because the ownership of your own property, that's the value of that is inherent. So you can't put a dollar sign on that. There are some things you don't put a dollar sign on. Is basically all I'm trying to say. Nothing really new. So with digital cash now, as well as AI, it doesn't change. Nothing has actually changed. All that changes is the level of centralization. It's just more centralized. The level of absorption is way higher. And the enforcement has increased. That's really the only difference. Well, it just means the degree to which the tyrannical decision making can be enforced is now a higher degree. That's all it is. And it's the same thing with AI. It's just convenience and centralization replacing individual decision making. But people have already been doing that before AI. That's the thing. People have already made songs that sound the same. They color their hair the same. They make their personality the same as that guy's personality. Doing less and less differentiation and individualization, and more collectivism, and really worship, really celebrity worship. And that happens with things that have a template, things that are prone to automation. For example, someone told me they were sounding the alarm on... A doctor was actually sounding the alarm, saying that, hey, what they're going to have now is basically you just type in a person's medical tests and history into a computer, and then the computer says, this is the medication, you have to give them this many times a day, here's how you hook them up, and that basically the computer becomes the doctor. And I know you can react to that and say, oh my goodness, that's so dystopian, that's so bad, we can't have that, oh my god. And I say, haven't we been doing that already? Like, now we've got a plug-and-play decision maker when it comes to medical treatment, right? A computer. Well, before, weren't the doctors already acting like computers? Especially if we think about what happened during the pandemic. Despite them being individual of infinite potential, despite them having experience and wisdom to be able to integrate it, and doctors, smart people who've seen a lot of shit in their life. But weren't they just making decisions like computers? Weren't they all making the same decisions? Don't they all stand behind the CDC vaccine schedule? Don't they all stand behind the mainstream scientific publications and mainstream studies, despite them having blatant, like, first grade holes in their procedure, despite having no placebos, right? They still go with that. They still go with the narrative, like computers. So don't tell me anything about AI, because people are already acting like it's never been artificial intelligence that's the problem. Human intelligence is the problem, and the lack of it. People have withdrawn themselves from being capable of living in the world, like actually being alive. And it's created the vacuum for this artificial system. So we see the artificial system setting in, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, this technology is going to take over. And I'm telling you, your sons, your daughters, your wives, your husbands, that's who you got to worry about, because their absence, their absenteeism, that's what's creating this AI system. Long story short. So where are we seeing AI now? Like true crime videos? Like you go see a true crime video and you don't know if it's AI or not. Well, don't blame that. I mean, if it was so unoriginal, what is the difference? It's almost right. If you can't tell the difference, then maybe don't blame the AI. Maybe blame the content creators that you became used to, or maybe just blame yourself. It's like blaming yesterday Hamzat Chimaev. He totally ragdolled a guy for 5 rounds, and it's like, oh, that was a boring fight. Well, don't just blame the guy that was dominating and with his wrestling. Also blame the other guy for getting dominated. That's my point here. This has already been, the human element has already been withdrawing from life. Through this scenario of really just going through the motions, being very automatic, basically giving up our presence. But it's kind of funny when people in my life bring up these concerns that I share their concerns. I also agree with them about AI and digital currency, but I just can't help but push back. I don't know why, but here I am talking about it, and I can't help but push back. It makes me angry. Because I think people get swept up in outcomes and effects, and then they gloss right over the causal factors. So I think a lot of people are wasting their time, because artificial intelligence is not new. It's just a continuation of what's occurred for centuries. Centralization, the mind of each individual getting replaced by a singular collective mind. It's no new system is coming. It's where we've been going. We've already been heading towards this. Everyone approaching the same prototype, Like I mentioned, when something goes viral or a social media post, and everybody wants to make the same post. I see Facebook posts of people I went to school with, and I wonder sometimes, like, do people just all want to take the same kind of a picture, make the same kind of a post? Or are they really that plastic and shallow and unoriginal? Or maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm the crazy one, because to me it's like, these can't be the same guys I went to school with. They used to be cool. And now it's just like they might as well be their dads. It's like I see them living exactly as their parents, or at least appearing to, right? Don't want to make personal attacks without me knowing. So maybe they're just making these posts, and maybe this is what people just think they have to do. Like everybody has to write the same resume, right? Structure it the same way. But that's the problem. People have such a follower mindset. That's the type of mindset to write a question into a search engine and then believe the answer. To expect to get a reliable answer. So, no matter what AI can do, like if you're going to be willing to type in a question and then just roll with the answer, you're the problem. AI is not the problem. You're the problem. Why would you just accept that as true without understanding, without analysis? That's a follower mindset. That's guru searching. A lot of people are just looking up and searching for the next guru. And I remember being young, every boy growing up is gonna ask themselves, who am I gonna be? That's the question when you're growing up. Like that's what makes a man. Is you're asking yourself, who am I gonna be in life? And this is now where there's kind of a fork, and you either take the heroic path, or you could take a lot of. There aren't just two paths. There are a million paths, but you can really go into the deep end, or you could just become who everybody else is. You could do the safe thing, and sometimes the safe thing isn't bad. If your father was if he really did things the right way, maybe it's not such a bad thing to walk into his footsteps and take over the family business. I think that's a beautiful thing. But when people just generally become what everybody else before them became, that's absorption. That's everything is going to get closer and closer together. Less people are pushing the envelope. Less people are doing things that were never seen before. Less new inventions, and it's just going to be perpetuating really the family lineage. This is the idea of the animal in man and the creator in man, the two aspects, the beast and the divine, right? Not to get into that, right? As I get a phone call, I will be wrapping it up. The tyranny has always been mental. It's always been mental. It's always been the people doing it to themselves. So I'm all for fighting the billionaires, the bankers, the dictators, the scammers, the abusers. But let's not forget, this is us that did it. We did it. People are doing it through their inaction, through their lack of personal, original, just straight up willpower and work in the real world. And I don't mean just willpower to do things that you don't like. I'm talking about the willpower to do things that you do like and enjoying yourself as well. Writing your own narrative and really pushing the pace. Counter all of this absorption, all of this stuff that is getting us into the. And this is the thing. It's not that one is bad and one is good. It's just that now we're in a time period where everything is heading towards one. There was a time period called the Renaissance where it was the opposite. The opposite was happening. It wasn't absorption. It was all of these new things, everything was pushing in certain areas, and this kind of ebb and flow of nature it's inherent to life, and we should take command of it in both directions. So I'm not saying do away with absorption by any means necessary. I'm saying we need to learn how to use this and be aware of what is happening so we can make it work for us. So if there is a digital system coming, if there is an AI coming, we should be well versed in that, to stay afloat in that and ride out these trends. And if we need to ride it out, we will. And then be ready when the absorption goes back out and there's an age of expansion. Let's be ready to profit from it, to enjoy the fruits of that. And that needs to be done through the work we put in today. And that's all I'll say about that. Stay tuned. Soundpath is coming up soon. Thank you so much. See you next week on This Week in Tyranny.
It's time to free the warriors, my friends. We got too many people locked up by the state, and they're counting on us to use our voices. Good intention. I'm living in this world and not of it. And how can you set something free if you don't love it?
Establish our identity. We have to understand who we are and where we fit in the natural order of the world.
33.
The people who have created this system and they perpetuate this system, they are out of balance. They have made us out of balance.
I woke up this morning feeling I had something to say. I got doubts on my mind, it's time to let them fly away. It's time to unlearn poison and heal broken hearts. Go back to the end, it's time for a fresh start.
I'm repping this gameplay, cleaning my future like in a chess game. Bitches better make way, snitches make no mistakes. A slip of the tongue will make me accidentally slip a switchblade. Don't take my kindness for frivolous, take my time away from me. I'ma make you see what the fuck I call ghetto discipline. Well, you better grab a water bottle.
So what we have here is a multinational, multi-generational parasitic ruling class, raping the earth of its resources and driving humanity deeper in the bottom. And emerging from the shadows comes a light warrior determined, resisting the system of violence and coercion. Learn how to spot the workings of the men behind the curtain.
Labor Day weekend, Soundpath to Freedom. We're going to show them what a soundtrack is like for this movement. It's a grassroots, and speak the truth. Come and be part of it. Once in a lifetime, never forgotten.
I heard that one man's voice ain't nothing, that ain't gonna do nothing. Do what I will, I'm scientific with it. Gunners my tongue, never caught me with it. Telling the truth, they said I'm doing terrific. Dope boy music for real, can't be no dope boy until you flip it. Honor the spirit, switch it. If you're a real man, free your mind, oh be happy.